Hello everybody, it's Scott from Horton Hill. How are you all doing today? So I just got home from work a little bit ago. We had a fire in our stove there the last few nights, and today it warmed up a little bit, so decided not to have a fire this evening. So I thought I'd take a few minutes and go through the cleaning the stove out and getting that stuff done. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about our wood stove and what I done. I did put all this stuff in myself. When we bought the home, it did have an existing wood stove in it. It just was not where we wanted it. It was in the middle of the house in the basement, and the staircase is open, so I understood why they put it there. But it was just in the way for the layout of the basement of what we wanted. So I ended up pulling the old stove out, actually tore the old chimney down out of the house, which was a lot of work. I never had gotten into tearing a brick chimney out before, but couldn't believe how much work that was. But got it out, ended up, we put a new roof on the house, so had the opening closed up, and then, of course, roofed over top of it. But then this took about a year to get this done. So last year, I put the pad in for the stove, and then got the stove and the stovepipe and all that stuff run on the outside. Then this year, I finished the stonework and the mantle and the stuff you're about to see here. So let me turn you around. So the stove you're looking at here is a next a Lopi stove. I think it's the next gen 2. This is really one of the smallest stoves they sell. It might be the smallest stove they sell, but it is a non-catalytic stove. Again, none of this was here when or when we bought the house. I did all this work myself. One thing that you can see here that might be a little bit different. This pipe underneath here that you see in the middle of the stove, that is actually a fresh air inlet that comes in from the outside. I don't know if you can see it there. There's the blower switch there. We do have a blower on it, but there is this pipe with the elbow that comes out of the wall there. That is actually a fresh air intake, and that was a huge improvement on this stove. So we ran it for a little while last year without that, and you would always feel a draft coming down the stairs from upstairs. Anytime you have a fire, it's going to want to pull air from wherever it can. So you'd always feel a cool draft coming down, which I didn't really care for. So this stove had the option of putting a fresh air intake on it. So ended up cutting another hole in the wall and then running that fresh air intake out. So I'll bring you outside here and show you what the work I did on the outside. So again, this house, the stove used to be in the middle, dead smack in the middle of the house. And I'll get you turned around here again. So this is where I went through the wall. It was a T kit here. So you put cut the hole in the wall, put the T in, and then ran the pipe up the outside of the house here, which you can see go up. So I did all this stuff myself. Actually, my son-in-law and my son and myself did all this. And when we bought the stove, I started getting some pricing on having it installed. And right there you can see that's the fresh air intake for the stove there. So all the combustion air does come in from the outside. But so I started getting some pricing on all this, and the people I bought the stove from, and then I had some other bids from some other companies, and they wanted like between $9,000 and $11,000 to do the pipe work and cut the hole in the wall. That was without the fresh air kit. So that $9,000 to $11,000, that did not include the stonework. That did not include the pad that I put in that the stove sits on. It was like a prefab tile pad that they would supply, but didn't include any of that. So I started thinking about this, and we did have an existing stove, so the insurance company did know we had a stove. But I got some pull permits from the county to put the new one in. followed the recommendations out of the Lopi manual, plus looked at what the county said as far as what the what this I guess the code says for how far you have to be away from walls and combustibles and things like that. So um, I did when we bought the house. It didn't. The dryer vented inside the house. They had some goofy um, dryer vent apparatus in there. So I had already cut one hole in the brick on the front side of the house to get the dryer vent out. It wasn't that big a deal. I knew that when I did this, it was just going to have to be a little bit larger hole. So I do have some pictures of the work that I did and how I went about it. But honestly, I thought it was going to be a big deal to have to do this. It honestly was not a big deal at all. You can see here the pipe that we use. It is a Selkirk pipe. There is different models of this pipe. So this is the double walled insulated. I think they call it the all fuel, which can handle coal or wood pellet or regular wood usage. This thing, when it is running, is cool to the touch. I mean, it's almost atmospheric temperature outside is what the pipe is. So it does a great job of keeping everything cool. When I did cut the hole in the wall, so I cut actually a square hole. I actually used a circular saw with a masonry blade in it to cut the opening, and then just used a hammer to chip everything out. The one thing it is a little bit different here, this is actually brick, and then on the inside it is concrete block. So I had to go through two layers of stuff, where your house might have just brick and then a framed wall on the inside there. So I'm back inside. Again, this stove does have a blower on it. It is very effective. It does a great job. We don't have a huge house by any means. It's about 1,600 square foot between both floors. Um, so it works really well. It blows the warm air up the stairwell there, and then I do keep the furnace on, keep the fan running in the furnace to be able to recirc the warm air from the basement. That does help. One other thing I want to do, the room above our family room downstairs here, it is hard for the warm air to reach back there. Again, the furnace does recirc some up into there, but what I'm going to end up doing is cutting a hole in the ceiling tile and then the floor up there, and then put a piece of ductwork with a couple register vents between it. And then all I'll have to do is, if I want to throttle that, then I can just close that vent off. But again, that fresh air intake, that was a huge game changer for the operation of this stove. Again, they're going to pull a draft in your house regardless. I guess if you have a house that's really tight, really sealed up well, you would probably have to have a fresh air intake. But the change that it made on this stove was unbelievable. So here's the inside of the Lopi Next Gen 2. So you can see it's not a huge firebox by any means, but it will fit a 16-inch long piece in there. And I do split everything fairly small. I try not to have too big of pieces here. Not only just, it's a little more cumbersome to deal with if my wife's messing with it, but also you can see how small I do split stuff here. It does take a little more time to split it that way, but I think if you can pack the smaller stuff in the stove better for if you're going to burn all night, and get it loaded down. So I'll include some videos at the end of, or pictures at the end of this, and show you the work I did. Again, putting the stove in and the pad down here I put in. It really, honestly, was not that bad to do. If you have a little bit of carpentry skills and a little bit of know-how, and not afraid to jump into things, you can do this. Again, follow the codes, follow the distances that are in the manuals on how far you should keep combustibles away and that stuff. But again, this was not that hard, and the price that they wanted to install these, I know they have to cover their insurance costs and pay their employees and stuff, but nine to $11,000 just to set the stove in on a prefab tile pad, cut the hole in the wall, and supply and run the pipe up the wall. $9,000 to $11,000, and with the cost of the stove, the blower kit, the work I done, and the pipe, I probably have about $4,500 total in everything. Um, I believe the stove was around 2,500 when we bought it, and that was with the blower kit. I did have to go back and buy the fresh air kit, which was like another $100 to get that stuff. But the pipe, I actually found all the outside, that Selkirk pipe. They do sell some of it at Menards, but it's the triple wall. I think it's got like the air cooled center there, where I got the double wall insulated pipe, and I actually found it at Rural King, and I got lucky. The one people that supplied the one of the quotes had actually wrote down the part numbers for the pipe. So I went back through and matched up part numbers, went to Rural King. Like I said, they had most everything on the shelf. The one thing I had to buy from the fireplace supplier was the offsets outside on the pipe. Those are a little pricey, those 45 offsets. But everything else was bought at Rural King. Stove, of course, was bought from the Lopi dealer there in Evansville. Lopi stove's been great.